Hey, I'm Mondo and I'm here to help you with your board game. Today I want to talk about reductive board game design. This is the principle that less is more in designing a board game. I'm a full-time developer and about 90% of my job when I'm developing a board game is to try and figure out what we can cut from the design. And that's because the fewer layers a game has, the more accessible it is to a wider audience. And anything that makes the game more complicated to learn and less accessible to more people that doesn't make the game better needs to be cut. If you're working on a board game and it's not really going the way that you hope, or you're not getting as much interest from publishers as you would like, it might be because there's too much going on in your design. Most successful game designs that we can cite, like Azul or King Domino or Harmonies, all have a very simple central mechanic that's really fun and engaging and players love. As you're designing games, it's important to zero in on what that central mechanic is in your game. Because here's the deal, ideas are great, but too many ideas in your board game design is not great. It's actually really bad. When we look at games that have been really successful, we can understand why, because that central mechanic at the heart of the game, the core of the game, is really, really good. And there's nothing that's detracting from that. As you're developing your game and watching people play test it, you need to dial in on what players enjoy the most about your game. Whether it's a sequence of mechanics or certain points of tension or the type of interaction that it elicits between players. If you can identify that one thing and then build your entire game around that thing, you're going to have a better overall design. Because often designers are really clever and they want to have very clever design choices in their games. But the more layers you add to a board game design, the harder it is for those core pieces to really shine. This can manifest a lot of different ways, but once you identify what the fun core thing is at the center of your game, then you need to start isolating the extra processes that detract from the function or the accessibility of that thing. Let's take Azul for example. In the original base game, the drafting mechanic that Emerson Matsuuchi came up with was really brilliant and fun and had this built-in interaction that was super engaging that players really loved. The placement of the tiles after you drafted them was also thinky and rewarded players for making the right choice in that first drafting step. Now imagine if that game had some kind of economic system where you had to pay money to be able to draft the things that you wanted to draft. In a situation like that, that money and that economy is now making it harder for players to engage in the thing that they want to engage in the most, therefore weakening the overall experience. And it's easy to identify that core mechanic in simpler games like Azul or Sagrado or Harmonies. But if we look at a game like Gloomhaven, the same is true. Because for all of the content in the box of Gloomhaven, the turn mechanics, when you boil them down to their most essential essences, are pretty simple. You have a hand of cards, you're playing two cards, one for a top action, one for a bottom action. And that simple turn mechanic and structure allows the players to make really interesting and complex decisions in a much broader, wider world. It's also important to note that a lot of times designers are playtesting their board games with other designers primarily. And while this can be great for insightful feedback from people that know what they're doing and have faced some of the same problems before that you're facing, it's important to keep in mind that designers are not the target market for your game. And what that means is that while a group of designers that are playtesting a game might be really impressed with clever mechanics or design choices that have been made, they're often also drawn to trying to add things to game design because they're designers. That's what they want to do. So before you start pitching your game to publishers, I think it's really important that you find a group of gamers that are the target market for your game. Have them play it and experience it and give you feedback about their experience. So as you continue to develop your game, think about what you can reduce and what you can take out of the design while still keeping the core mechanics and fun where it is. And if you can answer that question, you'll probably find a way to actually enhance those core fun pieces. That's not to say that every game should be simple, but the more the complexity revolves around a simple core mechanic, the more accessible the game is, the more fun people are going to have on their first try, and the better it's going to do overall, and the more appealing it's going to be to a publisher. So I hope that helps, and good luck.